Hey folks, welcome back to Interpret Nation. Today I'm going to talk about Gamora issue 1, 2017, and I'm going to just cover some of the symbolism, the allegory in the comic book's paneling, its sort of dialogue, and all sorts of different kinds of expressionisms that comic book artists like to use to tell a story. And I think to start this off, I'll talk about some of the names, the character names in the Gamora side of the Marvel universe. So starting with Gamora, what's interesting about this word is it sounds a lot like Gamora, the city, as in Sodom and Gomorrah, that was destroyed during biblical times for whatever reason. It's not important why it was destroyed or who destroyed it, but I think that it comes from that word. And the sort of important reason that she's named after Gamora, the city, is because Gamora essentially was a city of social outcasts. And what you should note about the word Gamora is it has a different spelling here to its actual spelling. So they've induced two different spellings for this word, but it only has one meaning. You might not get why I'm mentioning that right now, but just try to remember that. The other another person in the story is a guy called Thanos, and Thanos's name comes from the word, or a word for someone who is immortal, or I believe called immortal in Greek. It's a shorter version of a longer name that means this person is probably immortal, or is it's an immortal person. Anyway, the other person is obviously Nebula, and this is the three sort of, as far as I can tell, the most common characters in this issue. Nebula is another important one. And then Nebula having one definite spelling and two possible meanings, either meaning either meaning star, gas, left over from, I think, a star's birth or a star's death, but star, dust, gas. The other sort of possible meaning to it is that it is a flaw in a cornea that skews a person's vision. I'm going to take a guess and say that they've named Nebula because of the second explanation, of the second meaning, as in Nebula being someone with skewed vision. And if you look at sort of the portrayal of Nebula, the design of her character's appearance, she clearly has something that indicates her vision is somehow skewed. And that brings me to, well, her vision is skewed in this sense. I think vision would indicate ideology or some kind of dogma that she follows. But I think more than anything, this story, Gamora, is a picture of competing ideologies, especially when it comes to ideologies that deal with how you should treat females and female oppression, female abuse. I think that there's a lot of this kind of theming in the Gamora story. Now, why do they choose these names, and what do these names have to do with each other? I think if you put them together, they make sort of a symbolistic sentence, in a sense to say that the daughters of Thanos, being Nebula and Gamora, that mean, now we think about the meaning of those words, I think that it means to say sort of, there will always be, as in born out of immortality, meaning always coming into existence, there will always be those with skewed vision and those that are cast out. As in, there will always be people with an ideology that seeks to cast others out or cast them down or oppress them. That's sort of what those three characters in their naming and their involvement and their relation in this story to me means, and as far as I can see it. Now, what I think Gamora portrays here, is a strong woman trapped in sort of the prison of a patriarchal society, limited by aggressively patriarchal society. It's obvious from a lot of the panels that Thanos is meant to portray a super powerful man who is exerting his oppression on a woman, and Gamora obviously playing a kind of abused mentality, abused psychology, and I think Nebula plays another kind of abused psychology or mentality. or you could see it as Gamora playing the independent woman, as I've said, and Nebula playing the one who is imprisoned totally and utterly in her, even her own perception of her freedom, trapped in utterly patriarchal society. And the reason I think that is because if you look at the way Nebula envisions the world, what she's meant to do, her purpose, her goals, her motives, and you compare that to Gamora, Gamora seems like she just does whatever the hell she wants. She's not really under Thanos' control. And we know, I think if you sort of watched Guardians of the Galaxy, you know that she outwardly opposes Thanos in other sort of formats. Not that that's meant to be important, but it does give you some kind of background on what is seeding their portrayal of this character. Definitely, it was influenced by Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously, and Guardians of the Galaxy being influenced by earlier Gamora comics, sort of a circle. But obviously, I think that's what Gamora is meant to portray. And if you look at Gamora having the name Gamora, a city of social outcasts, so to say, her race, or let's say the people she comes from, are called Zen-Huberians. And I think that the reason they're called Zen-Huberians is because Huberian is kind of another way to say the word hubris, which means self-confidence or self-assurance. Zen obviously means, I think it is meant to express sort of from the term Zen Buddhism, self-cultivated, non-aggressively motivated progression, something like that. So the Zen-Huberians, I would say, are people who are confident in themselves and non-aggressive towards others in a sort of way, a peaceful kind of people who don't look for nonsense but have been genocidally murdered. And Gamora is one of these people, I think, kind of where they're saying we have genocidally sort of removed the independent woman from society. We've destroyed the idea of female power over so many years. Gamora is the portrayal of this reclaiming of the power of what it is like for a woman to take charge and be in control and powerful when she is caught in a male patriarchal society. I think that's what they're trying to tell us, is in the character Gamora. The cool thing is about how they've juxtapositioned Gamora and Nebula here, is that Nebula is something that Thanos does not consider his daughter. She is something that was upcycled. In a way, you could see that Thanos is saying she is a tool. In his view, she's just an instrument he's using to accomplish goals. Gamora, on the other hand, he actually outwardly expresses as his daughter, and Nebula, obviously, this drives her nuts. So the idea, the juxtaposition here is that Gamora is not his daughter, is actually adopted. Nebula is actually something he created, but he does not consider her his daughter, which is wonderfully ironic. It's kind of a Stockholmistic picture of what it is like to be trapped in an oppression. Nebula doesn't realize, Nebula is so caught in this sort of prison that she Stockholmistically wants to please Thanos when she should actually be looking at him like he's torturing and imprisoning her, not letting her free, totally controlling her motives. Gamora obviously is utterly aware that this is a prison and outwardly expresses her disdain for her situation. Anyway, I think I've covered enough of the themes. I'm going to call this video at the moment. Hit the like if you'd like to see more. Please subscribe. Let me know what you think about the video in the comments below. Interpret Nation out.